$175.
Appreciate that.
Get through the presentation. As I normally do, I'm here to present the quarter general fund operations presentation. I think you'll again find it to be very positive and reaffirming to our approach to budgeting at the city of Tuscaloosa. So let's take a look at revenues. The major revenues that we will be going over today and their percentage of the overall budget. As you hear me say, each and every budget presentation, sales tax is a driver of what we do, whether it's the city sales tax, our share of the countywide sales tax. And certainly those are going to be important things for us to look at. But also the continuing growth of SSUT, lodging tax, which I'll touch on a little bit in a second, continues to play a big part of overall portfolio. And property tax as well. And the reason why I reference that is, as you know, the city is working with the League of Municipalities and the county commissions on legislation that's currently down in Montgomery that would look at restricting that growth from local governments. So in terms of overall general fund revenues, we are ahead of the cumulative from 2023. So we're moving ahead, albeit I will say that our pace is beginning to slow, and I think you'll begin to see that as we begin going through those line items. And so we've had tremendous growth the last couple of years, and I think I think you'll feel very good on the 30th when we announce our audited surplus transfer. But I don't anticipate in future years the transfer will be as large as what we've seen the previous 2 fiscal years. Sales tax, general fund sales tax continues to grow. We're a little bit above prior year. The gold is the 2024, the black is the 2023, and the gray is 2022. So a good trend line to get us right at budget itself. Use tax, again, a very positive trend line, nearly equal to last fiscal year. SSUT continues to be the greatest driver of growth, and why it's such an important issue to the Big Ten mayors and to our education partners. And I think that's going to be something that you can, I know it's going to be something in future years councils will have to address, is the offset between sales tax growth and SSUT growth, because they're really one and the same when you think about the new digital economy that we're working in.
Well, where is the bill that I was reading something the other day about the fix, part of the fix for what Big Ten you've been a big advocate for the future? I mean, where is that standing in the session, isn't it?
It's still in committee right now. I know there's been a tremendous amount of work by Carly, Ms. Standridge, and Mr. Holmes on it. I think we're making tremendous progress. You know, like anything in the session, it's being dominated by a couple of other big issues. Once that breaks, I think we'll have a better idea of does it have a chance to pass this session.
The League of Municipalities supports it.
Well,
I mean, based on what I read.
Well,
right?
I think everyone supports it until whatever the final bill
So
comes
it's time
out.
to vote.
Well, SSUT is a new revenue stream for all of us, and its importance has really grown as the digital economy has grown. I think everyone is supportive of fixing it. Now, certainly, municipalities, county governments, education, they all have different ideas of what the right fix is. But I will say that the spirit of cooperation among all of our partners has been tremendous. And your team members here at the city, Ms. Andridge and Scott Holmes, have led the way. And so I'm very proud of their work. Hopefully we'll get something passed. But I do know this, we have made more momentum this year than we've had in recent years. So even if we do fall short, I do think maybe there's some opportunities in the future. And I appreciate you asking that question. Property tax, we had a big jump last year. And I think it's important to note, and the assessments that are done are not dictated at the pace of the city. That's not in our charge. And so you oftentimes in our property tax budget line items, you see marginal growth jump. That's just a factor of the way the assessments are done, not necessarily anything that's particularly done or anything that's done at the city of Tuscaloosa. So we continue to track, but we'll have to continue to monitor that. But we feel good where we are right now at 78% of budget. Rental tangible tax, 24% of budget. You see it's down. So again, you get an idea of where we are in first quarter. Lodging tax, if I were to raise a red flag, if you're trying to find some bad news in what you're seeing, I think this would be one area where I'd go, okay, we need to watch. And I say that to say that it's not, I'm gonna say bad news, that's probably an exaggeration. But I think we have to acknowledge that there's some levelization going on out there, as we kind of touched on earlier in just some informal conversations we've had. I went back and asked our team to look at number of fiscal year football games and compare to 23. It's the same number. So we're not dealing with, you had maybe 4 in one fiscal year and 3 in another. So this will be something we will need to continue to look at and evaluate moving forward.
Well, a question, any thoughts on why that might be? Because certainly on football game weekends and even some of these other ones that lots of folks are working so hard to fill up, there's people everywhere. So, and the prices of lodging are going up. So we talked about in projects that are earlier that the fill rate is stable or down, but the dollar volume is up because the prices are going up. So why would that be? Are we not, any ideas why that would be?
I think short-term rentals is going to be one of your.
So are we not able to catch them?
But I think you'll see in the revenue numbers, we're gaining more and more revenues from that line item. But I do think that plays into it. Also, yes, prices have gone up, which I do think also has the effect of lowering the number of people who will then pay $3,000 a night for a hotel room, or we even saw prices, skyrocket even above that among people who would send us screenshots of what a hotel room cost on a particular, like for example, the Texas weekend. So I do think there's some of that in play as well. The good news that I do think you will see, because you got to remember this is first quarter of this year, is one of the things we have going for us is that what the university is doing with its parents' weekends, graduation weekends, that is something we haven't seen in the past. And I think that's going to continue to help our hoteliers over the time. And so I do think that will help. Ms. Standridge and I have had many conversations about making certain that everybody that's operating short-term rental, they're going through the appropriate processes, including revenue. And we will continue to track that. TTS has been a good partner in helping us in that regard as well. Ms. Standridge, do you want to add anything on this? You've forgotten more about it than I know.
My only additional comment will be that I think you're not seeing a decline in revenues, Mr. Busby, and so your commentary on the pricing increasing, but then possibly the number of room nights levelizing, we are still seeing an increase, so to speak, in revenue. It's just there's no growth factor that's significant to the point to where we can then budget off of it. We're not seeing a decline in revenues by any means. We can some months we'll see possibly a decline of 100,000, but then the next month we'll see an increase of 100,000. It just depends on how it's bumping. There is no direct correlation, I think, for the idea of pricing of rooms either. Prices for rooms may greatly increase in one weekend, but then they're also going to go back down the next week. Prices across the board heavily increased on average over the last year. And with that, you're going to have some economic pressures of supply and demand that will then bring that average number of pricing throughout the week back down just a bit. We are seeing a little bit of that as well, and you can see that in the STAR report that TTS releases. So ultimately, I don't want, like the mayor said, there is no bad news, so to speak. It's just an awareness of the fact that we can't rely on the growth that we have seen in lodging over the last 5 years into the future. We just need to be able to watch it.
And
Okay.
But those trend lines that you see for the past 3 are almost, they're in alignment. So there's symmetry there. I think we just need to continue to monitor it and see. Also, too, I do think its travel costs hopefully begin to subside a little bit. You also will have more people during the non-football games take part in coming to Tuscaloosa and spending their tax dollars. Dwelling tax, you see above prior year, and as you see every quarter when I make this presentation, the stair-stepping effect. So again, for first quarter, ahead of prior year. The 2% that you see, again, ahead of prior year, 27% of budget. And then short-term rental. So there you see, again, the increase in short-term rental at 42% of budget versus the lodging tax, which was right around the quarterly average.
But that short-term rental is the lodging tax, right?
We separate the two. And so what Mayor
Okay,
Maddox
well,
presented in the prior lodging tax slide is going to be actual hotels. It's not
Hotel,
going to be short-term
okay,
rental.
I thought it was the same thing with just 2 components.
So they are both considered lodging taxes.
It's based on the same percentage as lodging tax.
It is, and they're both considered lodging taxes, but we track them separately and will report them as separate revenue streams only because of the economic changes between the two activities. So if one is going to be strictly for hotels and then the other going to be strictly for the short-term rentals, you will want to see that separately. And so instead of us having to go in and dig every month to separate the two,
That's
we just
fine.
track them individually.
They're assessed in 2 different places in the code.
Okay, so the 236 is what we brought in the first quarter check, which is the football game heavy, right?
Yes, sir.
And that represents, is that the bar down at the bottom, the 42%?
The 42% of budget. So we collected 148 in 22, 188 in 23, and 236 this year.
So that, is that telling me that the total for the year should be around 600? Is that, if 236 is in now and that's 42%?
Well, in 23, the number was close to a little over 600 here.
Okay,
So there, and so I mean, we should. It appears
should
we're
be
on
a little
track
over 600, yeah.
for, but I do think it's important. There is
Yeah,
growth
pushing
here. So
7.
we have nearly $50,000 worth of growth right there. So that's good. I mean, I'm not. You'll never turn away from $50,000, but still, you're 43,000 short there. So you're really still at even. The way that we look at it. Plus, I think your number should be much higher. I think there is we've reached kind of a stagnation in that. Now, whether that holds, I mean, we've been under some pretty high inflation for the last 24 months that impacts everyone. So as inflation subsides, does more people come back and begin traveling? I saw something on the Wall Street Journal earlier today about travel increasing. So, I mean, that's just something for us to watch. But I think we have been very conservative in budgeting lodging tax. I think this just tells us, let's keep being conservative. Let's don't go out there and increase to levels that the budget will not collect. So business licenses, again, first quarter, you're not going to get we'll know by end of second quarter if we're going to make budget. We're a little bit below, but again, business licenses come in, and so at different times, but we'll know by the time we get to February. Once we get the second quarter in, we'll know whether we're going to be there or not. So when you get your second quarter report, I think we'll be hovering close, if not exceeded, but it's still too early to give a final kind of judgment on that. Good news, building permits are up. So the last couple of years in this discussion, when we talked about things that have been negative, it's been building permits. So hopefully that's a harbinger of things to come. County sales tax is tracking city sales tax, a little bit ahead of growth, a little bit ahead of prior year, but still not a huge amount of growth. So with Elevate, you're going to get the same mirroring effect because Elevate is ultimately a general fund revenue source. So again, you'll see the same trend lines that you saw on the general fund. So I do want to jump to water and sewer, and I want to give Kimberly and her team, Ms. Michael and her team, a lot of credit. They've worked extremely hard with our water and sewer team when this council decided that we need to go back to that structure and organization and working hand in glove with accounting and finance, plus having the strength and conviction of this council to approve a rating structure that met the business model. I think you're beginning to see it's paying dividends. So for today, when we look at 23 versus 24, you see the market increase that is there. In terms of numbers, we're at 25% ahead of last year. Now these revenues are essential in us meeting the demands ultimately of our $300 million investments that we're making over 10 years within our water and sewer infrastructure. Let you take a look at that. So those are the key numbers. So we actually didn't do 175 pages, but we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding general fund, Elevate, or water and sewer. Again, I think the overall message I hope that you'll take is we're on track with the budget that we have passed. First quarter is good. Our focus now is once we get the second quarter in, I think that mid-year will look, I don't anticipate we're going to need to make any significant adjustments. I think based off just the cursory data I've seen, I feel very good about where we are, but I don't believe we will have the surpluses of the prior 2 years on the general fund side. I think we definitely have seen a stabilization in economic growth, at least for this fiscal year. Any questions?
Mayor, the expense side, how is that shaping up?
Based off what I've seen come through, I've been very pleased where we are on expenses. I haven't seen anything that shows we have any we have any unexpected expenses. That's what I get for trying to use words only Mr. Wilson knows. See, there you go. I one day I'm going to be like you.
You're going to be a Baptist preacher, man.
I know.
You won't make no money.
But
Like you will in city government.
yeah. But
Sitting around here.
I don't sense anything right now that's going to really be what would be a budget buster. Fuel prices, energy prices, even chemical prices haven't far exceeded anything that we anticipated. I do think our expenditures, though, on personnel costs will be more closer to line item. In prior years, we have had a lot of savings, especially within police department and other departments, because filling positions have been much harder. Well, I can tell you one indicator that our economy is slowing down is we're getting a lot more applications per position, and people are holding on to their jobs longer. So we don't have as many vacancies as we've had in the past. So you're not going to get the amount of salary savings that you see. That's probably the thing that if I were trying to, it's good news, bad news. The good news is you got people you need doing the jobs every single day. The bad news is you're not going to have that cushion, if you do have an unexpected emergency. Ms. Standridge, you, again, this is, I'm not a CFO. I just play one at work. Will you, make certain that I haven't missed anything in that analysis?
So you're the one that remembers numbers more so than we do, actually. No, I think that's absolutely correct. One of the things that I will commend every single other department head for is their, commitment to a budgetary number. there's not a single department head at the city that I think doesn't take their budget line items very seriously, and they've kept them all within extremely reasonable ranges. So I don't, like Mayor Maddox said, I don't see us having concern over any expenditure line items.
Good news.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, any other items to bring before the Finance Committee today?
Motion adjourned, Mr. Chairman.
Second.